You're listening to WCAT Radio, your home for authentic Catholic programming.
Hi, everybody. This is Dr. Cynthia Toolin-Wilson, and I'm here with Ellen Kolb, who has written a book called Pro-Life Journeys. So I think that we'll have a very interesting discussion, and I want to welcome you to the show.
Thank you very much for having me. I'm looking forward to this.
Yes, so am I. Before we start, would you open us with prayer?
Yes, and I'd like to share with you a card I keep right in front of me on my desk with the bookmark of St. Teresa of Avila. It will be familiar to, I think, many of your listeners. In the name of the Father, of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit.
Amen.
Let nothing disturb you, nothing frighten you. All things are passing. God never changes. Patience obtains all things. Nothing is wanting to him who possesses God. God alone suffices. In the name of the Father, of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. Amen. I like to keep this handy because patience obtains all things is a reminder I need daily.
Get in line. Yeah. So what led you to write this book?
I spent many years at the State House in Concord, first as a volunteer and then as a lobbyist, advocating pro-life policy, following pro-life bills. And in 2012, I began a blog called Leaven for the Loaf to inform my fellow Granite Staters about what was going on at the State House. I would follow bills, let people know when votes were coming up. And that grew into interviewing people from around the state about their own experiences and attending events in the region, which introduced me to many more people. And after 10 years of blogging, I pulled together an anthology of posts from those 10 years. And that turned into Pro-Life Journeys. I found as I was looking at old posts, the ones that really stood out were the stories of people who had started not thinking they were going to be pro-life at all, but whose lives had taken unexpected turns, and they found themselves not just pro-life, but wanting to tell other people about it and share that.
So when you're talking pro-life, are you talking just about the abortion issue, or are you talking about euthanasia?
No, this is a broad spectrum. It's the abortion bills come up in New Hampshire again and again, but so does assisted suicide. In fact, we are dealing with yet another bill right now. One of the stories I share in the book is about a colleague of mine working to repeal the death penalty in New Hampshire, which eventually did pass, but I wrote about her on a day when the vote fell short.
Oh.
And I remember her saying, all of our work didn't make any difference. And I thought, no, she and her example were precisely the kind of thing that make a difference in the long run. I thought that was, she just impressed me so much. I wanted to write that down. And another thing is human trafficking. A woman I had been a colleague with for years eventually revealed she had been trafficked as a teen, right here in New England, became pregnant. Her trafficker said, "You abort this child or I will kill you." She ran out the back door, went to what we would call now a pregnancy care center, and said, "Help."
Yeah.
That began a long, long journey where she now, a very quiet, soft-spoken woman, has spoken nationwide about trafficking, how it's real, and how all it takes sometimes to make a difference between keeping and abandoning a child is somebody saying, "What do you need?"
Yeah.
So these are wonderful people, but everyday people. They're my neighbors. They're folks I've met up at the State House and folks I've met traveling around the state. So many stories are all around us that we really don't know about.
Yeah, I actually wrote a book about my own abortion experience, which I don't know if Sebastian had told you about it. It was
I have seen the title and read the description, and I think it certainly bears reading because it's a very important experience.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, the thing is that we think that abortion is something that's relatively new, 40, 50 years maybe. But when my mother wanted to abort me, she had no trouble getting the chemical. None. It's like, I don't want this baby. Here, drink this. And the only thing that saved me was that when she started to drink the medicine or chemical, whatever it was, when she started to bleed, she was afraid she'd die. Mm-hmm. So she stopped taking it so she would live, but it had nothing to do with me living.
And that had a generational effect, did it not? It affected decisions that were made far later on.
Yeah. How can it not?
Abortion is never a private decision, however much that may seem to be in the political realm. It always affects more than one person. And we can never tell how that decision is going to echo.
That's true. And it amazes me when I think of the number of women who have had abortions. And it's like, I can't imagine what their life is like after. I mean, I guess some are hardened enough in the heart that it doesn't bother them.
Well, I hear this all the time up at the State House. Anytime there is a bill regarding abortion regulation or even rolling back abortion in terms of number of weeks, women will come out, often in pink T-shirts provided by the region's largest abortion provider, and say, I would not have the family I have today if I had kept the child I was pregnant with as a teenager, or I aborted the child of a rapist. I did not want to carry a rapist's baby. Or we learned that our child had a genetic anomaly, and therefore we did the merciful thing. This happens all the time. And the thing is, when you listen to a woman talking about having a child aborted late because of an anomaly, I'm a mother. I cannot help but feel the ache that she did. And it's difficult to stand up and say, that life is as sacred as yours, while at the same time trying to reach across, there's a gap and you want to reach the heart of the woman who has made that decision. Because in political terms, it will be, well, if you are fighting abortion, then you are fighting me. And it can be very challenging to get past that.
Yeah. The whole thing is a tragedy. I was so excited when a few years ago I was watching the news when Roe v. Wade had been, I don't know if overturned is the correct word, but I was watching it, and there was one of the Supreme Court judges was outside, and it was the first time that I really had a sense of this real divide in worldviews. So this young girl was screaming at him, nobody cares about my body. What about my body? And he said, because it's the life of another person. And I thought, finally, someone has said that. But it was like she could not understand that. It was like, it's just some cells that are, that have to be taken out of my body so I can live my life.
Well, and even the thought, well, this is just my body. I have to look at that and say, okay, so tell me, we've had attempts in New Hampshire. You do not need to be a physician or even have a medical training at all in order to do an abortion. Repeatedly through the years, we have tried to enact informed consent legislation that includes the provision that someone with a medical background must do the abortion. It's been killed every time. How does that address women's health?
I had no idea.
Yeah. And we've tried to pass informed consent legislation that requires that hallways in abortion facilities be able to accommodate a gurney if a woman has a problem with surgical. Now, nowadays, chemical abortion is more common, but to have the doorways wide enough for gurneys. You may remember the case of Dr. Gosnell in Philadelphia. One of the reasons Karnamaya Mangar died, the woman whose death he was convicted for, was because emergency technicians could not get to her in the building.
Oh.
We try to get regulations for doorways. No, because that's considered an attempt to limit abortion. It can be very challenging when someone's caught up on, well, what about my body, to say, well, here's an effort to protect your body, to promote your health. Can you join us? And the results are before us.
Yeah, it is. It's a sad thing. I mean, there are so many abortions that have been performed that people probably don't even know about. I think that numbers must be much, much higher than we know of.
You're going to see more of that as chemical abortion or so-called medication abortion becomes more common. Here in New Hampshire, it accounts for over half of the abortions, as far as we know. We can't get a statistics bill passed in this state, so we rely on self-reporting by the abortion providers in the region. But a woman who is handed pills and takes them home, you don't know exactly when she's going to take them. You don't know what happens. And if she goes to the emergency room hemorrhaging, are they going to code that as an abortion follow-up? Or will that just be counted as unidentified gynecological bleeding? We will never know how women suffer ill effects from this. And as a woman, that bothers me.
Well, yeah, it should. It should bother all of us. But
so there are all kinds of edges to when people say the abortion issue, we're not talking issues. We're talking about human beings, the child and the mother. Both of them have dignity. And both of them need to be cared for. And yes, there are fathers. Yes, there are siblings. Abortion has effects on people who will never see the inside of an abortion clinic.
Yeah. Yeah.
We can't forget that.
Yeah, you're right. But, one of the problems is once something is legal, I think it's acceptable.
The law is a teacher.
Yeah.
Whether we like it or not. And 50 years of saying that abortion can be acceptable left its mark. Now, in the Dobbs decision that overturned Roe, all the court did was say, get us out of this. It was a giant step sideways. They did not declare that a child is a human being. They did not declare that a woman has a right. They just said, get us out of this. It's a state matter. It's not the federal constitution. A mistake made by some advocates for life is thinking, wow, good, we're done. No, now we've got 50 battles we fought every year. In New Hampshire, we had an attempt to amend our constitution to enshrine abortion. Fortunately, that was defeated. But you've seen in other states, such things have passed, and it's going to come back again and again and again to say that reproductive rights are fundamental. No, life is fundamental. And we need to be able to say that with joy and conviction and say it face to face with the people who are making policy.
Yeah. Yeah, what we have is really a difference, a vast difference in worldview.
Yes.
Understanding of what's really going on.
And there's a lot of fear. And when you make your life decisions out of fear and you make your public policy out of fear, it's going to be very different from a policy that's made from a place of genuine concern for other people. True, authentic respect for life, authentic justice. Fear does not make for good policy.
No. So do you have any kind of estimate just a wild estimate of how many babies have been aborted since Roe v. Wade?
I have heard the figure of upwards of 60 million.
Oh.
Which is a staggering number. And what gets me is that there is not a more determined effort to account for those. One reason that the Catholic Church opposes mass graves is that it takes our attention away from the fact that each person who dies deserves to be remembered. They have a name. They are a person. They deserve to be remembered as a person. And when you reduce abortion to, well, we've had 60 million, that number just rolls by people, and you think, 60 million, how many states worth of people is that?
Yeah.
Look at those faces. What if each of those faces got knocked off the face of the earth right now? You'd pay attention to that.
Mm-hmm.
But we do not account for the children.
Yeah. But it's even worse than that, because if you've got 60 million who have died, mm-hmm. and that's probably a low number, but think of all of those people who would have lived and would have married and reproduced. Mm-hmm. So you needed a whole line of descent for every person that's been killed.
Yeah.
Like, so what would that make it? Probably 4 or 5 times that.
Yeah.
If you look at the effect on life, I mean, obviously, if you're never conceived, you're not going to die. But the thing is that the population has been reduced so much. It could have been, Einstein,
mm-hmm.
Beethoven.
Yeah.
It's just incredible when you think of the waste of life and the waste of potential.
I have a friend and neighbor whose daughter with Down syndrome turned 24 today.
Mm-hmm.
And her mother reposted something that she posted years ago when there was a story on CNN about the need for eugenic abortions.
Oh, boy.
And my friend wrote the most beautiful meditation and open letter to the reporter about her daughter's life. And she didn't romanticize. She didn't gloss over things. But
mm-hmm.
her message was, look at my daughter. She gives me joy. And it's not because of what she does. It's because of who she is. And so many women who get adverse prenatal diagnoses don't hear that.
Yeah.
They don't get a chance to hear that.
Mm-hmm.
So when people will say things like that, when they take their own experience and share it publicly in a charitable way, that has value that we won't be able to measure, but it's out there.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's why I wanted to share the stories I did, because I figured, oh no, when I do this anthology from the blog, I'll just pull the 10 most popular posts. And I piled those up and looked at them and said, no, why does this story speak to me more than another? And draft after draft, it finally turned out it was the people telling their stories.
Yeah.
Those are the things worth remembering.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
A trafficked woman saying, the secrets stop with me, and going public with her story, with the support of her family. Yeah. A Catholic woman standing up and saying, no, I am not in favor of the death penalty, and that doesn't mean I'm against the police. Someone standing up and saying that takes guts these days.
Yeah, it does. It does.
A woman with a terminal illness who sees someone else with the same illness very publicly planning to commit suicide. And she was startled and said, no, this isn't right. And spent the last year of her life traveling around New England saying, this is not the way to go.
Yeah.
And don't let anybody tell you you don't have a right to talk about it just because you don't have a terminal illness, because assisted suicide is about all of us. I'm in awe of such people.
Mm-hmm. Boy, we've really turned into a death culture. I think when you think of how horrified people are of what happened in World War II with Jews, it's like, that was obviously a horror, but we do it now in our own homes.
It's so easy to turn a page and say, okay, that was then, it's over, it's done. And it's much more challenging to see what's happening.
Yeah.
See what's happening in front of us.
Yeah.
All the more reason to encourage each other to speak out for life when we can. And some of that speaking is going to be very private, quiet conversations that I might not see the result of. It's, when you want to end a pregnancy, you have the abortion. That's it. You think it's a single event. It's done. Mm-hmm. When you're talking about how special life is, how critical it is to defend it, and you're having a conversation with someone, you don't get that sense of there, it's done, it's complete. You don't know where that's going to land. You don't know how they're going to take that. Mm-hmm. They don't hear it from you. Will they hear it all?
Yeah, it's true. It's true. It's a sad, it's sad what has happened in this country. I guess maybe since the 1960s, it's really gone downhill in this way.
I became, Roe versus Wade was handed down when I was a teenager. So I wasn't really conscious of abortion until it passed. So I don't remember, before. I have heard from women who did live before that and have told me about what it was like. But I remember thinking, a friend of mine in high school chose to have an abortion, and we all took up a collection for it because that's what friends did. And I remember thinking, I'm not real comfortable with this, but it's her body. And you know what turned me around was not the church, even though I was Catholic. It was biology class in college. I was just taking biology. We're talking embryology. And eventually I realized I couldn't have it both ways. Either human being is developing or not. And if a human being's developing, that settles it.
Yeah, I agree.
So God bless that biology teacher. I don't even remember his name, but he was just doing a normal description of human development.
Yeah, it's I think a great deal of it is just the ignorance. You're talking about biology, but it's also, I just don't think people realize the effect that it's going to have on them. I mean, some people walk away and care less, but I can't imagine that's most people. I mean, you have to know what you've done. And, so it's shrouded in, if not lies, it just in silence.
And there's no healing in silence and lies.
Yeah.
And there is healing to be made after an abortion.
Of course. Yeah.
So that's difficult.
Yeah.
And something that I hope to write about in the future is how important it is for pro-life people to keep each other encouraged. After I'd been at the State House for some time, I let the nonprofit that I was representing know that I was ready to stop in a year. And so I'm giving you a year's notice. We'll train somebody new. And as it happened, that last year was COVID. So I was brilliant. I didn't know how it was going to end. But one of the last hearings I attended, I walked into the Judiciary Committee. I can't even remember what pro-life bill or anti-life bill it was. And I saw these people whom I'd known for years. Many of them just keep getting elected again and again. And I walked in and I realized I wasn't seeing people anymore. I was seeing positions. I was so fed up. I felt so discouraged.
Yeah.
Stepping back was the only sensible thing to do. And I had time to think about that. And we need to support each other and not think that certain chosen individuals are going to be the ones to lead the charge all the time. The pro-life community needs to be building a bench constantly. Because one day you're going to need to lead. Another day I might need to. Another day, someone a generation or two younger than me. But we need to keep each other encouraged, because that too is a pro-life thing to do.
Well, it's an exhausting fight.
It saps you. It absolutely saps you.
Yeah. Exhausting isn't a strong enough word. But it is an exhausting fight. It's been going on for a long time, and I don't see any end at this point.
What surprised me as I was working through the years on public policy was how eugenic abortion has come back without the word eugenic. I think eugenics was one of the worst ideas of the 20th century. I thought we were done with that.
Yeah, well.
Now it's about tragic fetal anomalies. Which do exist. But let the pregnancy come to an end. Know that the child is likely, you give the child, there is such a thing as perinatal hospice.
Mm-hmm.
Or do you tell the parents, we can terminate this now and put you out of your misery? To call that eugenics is considered insensitive. But
that's funny.
And you know what happens when the community, we make sure we weed out the people with anomalies. All these chosen children, how eager is a community going to be to provide for people with disabilities when there are fewer people with disabilities?
Mm-hmm.
You sometimes wonder about that.
Mm-hmm. Sometimes I think that the rhetoric of Nazi Germany had an impact that we didn't know about. Because here we are, you know, what is it, 70 years, 80 years? 80. And here we are, we're talking about eugenics.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, your life isn't worth living because you may have an anomaly. It's like, it's
well, we had this discussion in the assisted suicide hearing we had not long ago. Mm-hmm. Now, of course, this bill, like so many others that have passed elsewhere, it's only for people in the last few months of life
mm-hmm.
are in intractable pain. Well, it's funny how those things expand and expand and expand. Once a bill gets passed, if a court gets a hold of it and someone comes before the court saying, well, I don't have 6 months left, but I have this condition.
Mm-hmm.
The court says, well, if it's a right, we can't deny it to you. Suddenly, it happens a lot. And at the hearing, some of the most passionate opposition to assisted suicide came from people representing disability rights organizations and veterans organizations.
Yeah.
There are huge campaigns, as there should be, to fight suicide among veterans. The rate of suicide among military veterans is appalling.
Yeah.
The head of the State Veterans Council came before the committee and said, this bill scares my people to death.
Yeah.
Because they're afraid. What kind of support are they going to get if they come in with depression?
Mm-hmm.
They come in with a chronic illness?
Mm-hmm.
Those voices will make a difference. If they look at me and they might see a former lobbyist, but they look at a veteran who says that.
Yeah.
Those words from him carried more weight than anything I could have said.
Yeah. Yeah. Yep. Oh, scary.
And it can be hard to get people to come out and tell their stories.
Mm-hmm.
But I think telling stories, your own story, can have a great impact. I used to tell people, oh, just come tell the committee. Well, now I understand you don't just turn someone loose on a public stage without them being comfortable. But as you develop relationships with the legislator or with the people around the legislators, and sharing your story becomes a more natural thing, then when that legislator votes, they're not going to think, okay, what material have I gotten from the different lobbying organizations? They're going to think, I heard this story from someone in my district.
Mm-hmm.
And they'll think of a person instead of a policy.
Yeah.
That has a chance of changing hearts.
Yeah. It has a chance, but I just wish there was more of it.
Well, that's something else that it was a good time for me to step back from lobbying. I forget what my end is. I'm a Catholic woman.
Mm-hmm.
I'm looking forward to eternal life.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm in politics, as I've spent I love politics. I've been in it most of my adult life. But the danger is, think in terms of elections. The next bill, the next vote, the next candidate. That's one of the things that is quietly sapping so many people working for pro-life policy. Step back, refocus, and remember our end. It's eternal. It's not electoral.
Mm-hmm. True. Yeah, well, I've often thought in a different way when I think of abortion, because once conceived, we live forever.
Mm-hmm.
That's the only hope that I see, because, millions and millions are living elsewhere now because their parents didn't want them, but at least they were living. It's really such a sad thing.
Nobody wants to be called the unwanted child.
Yeah.
But wanted by whom?
Yeah.
You're not wanted here.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Open your eyes, look around. What can we do to help provide home and love?
Yeah.
People who think that they're unwanted. What you talked about, your own story about being a survivor of an attempted abortion. I don't know if you're familiar with Melissa Ohden.
No.
Started the Abortion Survivors Network after she discovered she was the survivor of an attempted saline abortion.
Mm.
And when she chose to go public some years later, she was astounded at people who got a hold of her and said, "You too? Here's what I learned about my experience as an abortion survivor." Well, she began the Abortion Survivors Network and has just published a book with stories from some of those survivors. And that, meeting each other, gave them each a great deal of hope and support and helped them heal, because not all of them have closed the loop with the parent who tried to have them aborted.
Mm-hmm.
And that can be very difficult.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah. Just knowing that there are other survivors out there. Melissa herself found that her mother was a teenager who was coerced into an abortion by her grandmother.
Oh.
Who was a nurse and had an in at the hospital. The doctor owed her a favor, so the doctor induced the saline abortion, which resulted in the birth of a child whom a nurse took care of. She was, put to the side and was expected to die. But one person making one decision to care.
Yeah. Yeah.
Helped Melissa survive. She has a family now, and she has begun this organization to assure people who survive abortions, you have value, you have worth, and you're not the only one.
Oh, yeah, that's true. That's true.
I only wish her grandmother were alive to see it.
Yeah, really. But yeah, it is amazing when you look back. I mean, this, for me, it was 1949. And it's like you wouldn't even think it would have been available to find something that would give an abortion. But sure enough, there was.
I had not heard about drinking a substance. And when I hear about abortions in the 40s and 50s, it's usually the object, you hear about the coat hanger or the doctor who's working in the back alley. And then I come from a state where, well, if you try to regulate it, it's like the back alley is just opening up onto Main Street now. It's just that, when we try to regulate, sometimes the abortion providers say, well, we police ourselves and we wouldn't let anyone get away with this or that. Again, go back to formerly Dr. Gosnell in Pennsylvania a few years ago, who was doing late-term abortions. Others knew about it and were afraid to report him because they were afraid that would affect their business.
Yeah. Yeah. Yep.
Well, that I think that every state should be aware of, even if abortion is legal. Is it being done by people who are medically qualified?
Yeah, exactly.
Is there emergency service available? What kind of follow-up do you have when you send a woman or a girl out with chemical abortion pills? And when you hear about access to chemical abortion pills, are you talking about wanting to make them more freely available? Like right now, they're prescription. Is it going to be over the counter? These questions matter. They're a matter of women's health and the children's.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I don't think I'm ever going to wake up and say, we're done, we're finished, we've done the job. But one of my overwhelming things when the Dobbs decision came down was, this is not going to be my fight anymore. I mean, I worked for many, many years and finally saw Dobbs done. But there's more to be done beyond that. And that's going to be That's going to be the next generation.
Mm-hmm.
And
Well,
I
it will.
want them to know it's worth the fight.
Yeah, yeah. It'll never entirely go away.
Well, that has to do with being human.
Yeah, yeah. Mm-hmm. Fallen creatures.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. So.
Fallen creatures, but capable
Mm-hmm.
of
If
reaching for hope.
they want to.
Yeah.
No. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's really really a fascinating interview to me. I enjoy it. It sounds weird. I enjoy talking about abortion, but I enjoy talking about it because I learn so much more every time and how things do change. You know, when I first was writing about it, it was like, you know, I had very little hope that anything would ever stop it.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think it'll ever be entirely stopped, but maybe it'll become entirely illegal at some point, you
Mm-hmm.
know. So, yeah.
I have a colleague who likes to say she doesn't want to see it illegal. She wants it to see it unthinkable.
That's even better.
And that's a tall order. But again, it goes looking beyond the electoral cycle and looking.
Mm-hmm.
This is a friend of mine who is a great sister in the Catholic faith, and she has a way of nudging me in the right direction when I'm veering off in another one.
Mm-hmm.
But she says, no, making it unthinkable
Yeah.
is what we're after.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Which can only be done a day at a time, because if you wake up thinking, oh, I've got to do it all today, you'll just go back and pull the covers over your head. At least I will.
Yeah. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But one conversation at a time, one decision at a time.
Yeah. Yep.
Will make a difference.
Oh, it does make a difference. There's no question of that. But it's just, I look at the numbers and it's like, oh, so many people, all that potential, all the joy of life that they could have had and will never have.
Yeah, the loss is incalculable in every way.
It is. It is. It's actually demonic, if you ask me. But a horrible thing. That, you know, I think, I mean, I know there's always been abortion, but it amazes me how quickly, I mean, in half a century or a little more, you know, you've gone from, you know, who would think of such a thing? Maybe some desperate teenager or something, but now it's common.
Mm-hmm.
It's acceptable.
It's acceptable. It's considered health care. And by the way, every time over the past century, we have heard the phrase abortion is health care and haven't fought back.
Yeah.
That helped get us where we are. Anytime we hear abortion is health care.
Yeah.
Even healthcare professionals need to speak up about that.
Yeah, that's the truth.
I can tell you when there are hearings about it in my state, if abortion is the issue, there's no shortage of doctors who will come in and say, I perform them or I don't perform them, but I'm in favor of keeping them legal. But to find doctors who will come and state abortion ends a human life,
yes,
that's tough.
Yeah.
Someone from the local Catholic hospital will say it. There ought to be doctors lined up 10 deep outside.
Mm-hmm.
They're concerned about their jobs. They're concerned about their practices.
That's not right.
I'd like to make it safe to be pro-life.
Mm-hmm.
I'd like to know that your place in your school is safe if you're pro-life. Your place in your profession is safe if you're pro-life. If you're a pharmacist, you won't lose your job if you decline to hand out an abortion pill. Yeah. If you're a nurse, you won't lose your job if you decline to participate in abortion.
Yeah.
And that's not even getting to stopping abortion. It's, can you just oppose it without being at risk?
Yeah. No, at this point you can't. No, it's not.
We got goals then, don't we?
Yeah, we do. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's a sad situation. Well,
and you know, there are some things that abortion will reflect in that has nothing to do with it. We had there are laws called Lacey and Connor's law. It was what it was originally called out in California. A woman was murdered. She was pregnant. late stage of pregnancy. The child died as well. The person responsible was sentenced. Did he kill one person or two?
Two.
The mother of the dead woman worked to get a federal law passed to recognize that.
Mm-hmm.
Fetal homicide is what it's called. We fought for 20 years to get such a law in New Hampshire. Mm-hmm. And the reason it took so long is that abortion rights activists said this will impair other women's ability to choose abortion. And of course, what's happening is this is a child wanted who dies due to the bad action of another human being against the mother's will.
Yeah.
It took 20 years to get a fetal homicide bill in New Hampshire because of the opposition of abortion advocates.
Mm-hmm.
That was astounding to me at first. But abortion distortion is how I've heard it described by some legal experts with more background in the law than I have. But when you use that as your lens, laws look funny.
Yeah.
Things are skewed. Completely unrelated public policy will be affected by it. We need to be a little more critical about that.
Mm-hmm.
Watch out for that kind of distortion and point it out when it happens.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And you know what got fetal homicide passed? It wasn't lobbyists like me. It was families who had lost children.
Yeah.
As it happened, it was two families who lost children due to other people's driving. It hurt the mother. The child died of those injuries. They brought the photos of those children.
Mm-hmm.
They looked like they were sleeping, except they had bruises.
Okay.
That touched hearts.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
More than anything did.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's very difficult to come forward with a story of choosing life sometimes, but it makes a difference.
It does. Yeah. Well, I want to thank you for this. It's been a very interesting interview, and I wish you great success as you work against this horror.
Well, thank you for having me, and thank you for the conversation, because I think anything we can do to encourage each other, that's going to be a step towards the culture of life that we're all working for.
I agree. Thank you. Okay. Shall we close with a prayer? Would you like to? Mm-hmm.
I'm going to call on our Blessed Mother to console and encourage and strengthen us. So in the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit.
Amen.
Hail Mary, full of grace, the Lord is with thee. Blessed art thou among women, and blessed is the fruit of thy womb, Jesus. Holy Mary, Mother of God, pray for us sinners, now and at the hour of our death. Amen.
Amen.
Son, and Holy Spirit.
Mm-hmm. Well, I wish you great success, and
thank you.
And take care of yourself.
I hope we'll meet again.
I do too. Yep. Bye-bye.
Hello, God's beloved. I'm Annabelle Mosley, author, professor of theology, and host of Then Sings My Soul and Destination Sainthood on WCAT Radio. I invite you to listen in and find inspiration along this sacred journey we're traveling together to make our lives a masterpiece and, with God's grace, become saints. Join me, Annabelle Mosley, for Then Sings My Soul and Destination Sainthood on WCAT Radio. God bless you. Remember, you're never alone. God is always with you.
Thank you for listening to a production of WCAT Radio. Please join us in our mission of evangelization. And don't forget, love lifts up when knowledge takes flight.